What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show, live here on a Monday morning on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube channel. I am one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Guys, if you are new to the channel, if you want to be interactive throughout today's show or any of our morning show throughout the week, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with us. The Sixers win ugly at Madison Square Garden last night over the New York Knicks. Neither team reaches the 80-point threshold, probably set the game of basketball back 100 years. But we're going to talk about what that win means for this team. They play the Knicks again on Tuesday, I believe at MSG again, Scotty. So we'll get into what they can try to accomplish as they attempt to get a little bit healthier. But more importantly today, 12 p.m., noon, NFL free agency kind of begins, right, Scotty? Right. The tampering period gets to begin. Nothing official, but you can tamper. You can tamper, and you can make deals. So we're going to talk about that. Well, Eagles top free agent targets for myself and Scotty. Guys, we want you to drop your top targets as well in the comment section, and we'll get to as many as we can today. But it's looking and hoping to be a strong offseason for the Eagles, trying to bounce back after that embarrassing playoff loss in the wild card weekend to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How can Howie Roseman and this team get put back together piece by piece? We're going to look at the market and give you guys our top free agent targets for the Bears. But my man, happy Monday, and what's going on?
Happy Monday, man. Happy to be back here once again. Trending towards our normal schedule here, getting back to it from last week. As well. And we're getting into an exciting part of the offseason, man. Probably, for my money, man, I'm not a huge draft guy. I'm just not huge on trying to predict what a guy is going to transition to in the NFL. It's hit or miss, man, for a big portion of the NFL draft. So for my money, where the Eagles are at, if they're not in a top 10, top 5 pick status, it's just not super, super exciting for me. I'm not saying that I won't be excited come draft day when we see the new player that's going to be joining our organization or the new players. But for my money, free agency is the more exciting part for me. And especially given the circumstances with the Eagles having a good amount of money to spend, because it's just something that we haven't had in recent years. So I'm excited to see how he's going to go out here and do and what he can maneuver within the market. So, man.
You go back to the last two all-season and last two NFL drafts, and it has been exciting both times.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 off-seasons ago, we were seemingly correct in our hope and predictions that what Howie and company accomplished were going to pan out. The Eagles ultimately got back to a Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs. Last year, we thought through the draft and the little bit of moves they made in free agency and the trading for DeAndre Swift, et cetera, we thought, hey, this team might even be better on paper. Things did not work out this way. You get Jalen Carter, you move up to 9. 2 years ago on draft night, you trade for A.J. Brown, you move up to get Jordan Davis. Howie Roseman's been very, very busy the last 2 all seasons. To your point, maybe really hasn't had the type of cap space and type of glaring holes and needs that this team needs to get back to compete, right? And not only in the NFC, but to try to win the Super Bowl. So when you look at it from that standpoint, Howie Roseman has things to accomplish this offseason, man. And when we get into these lists, I think you're going to notice kind of like a trend.
Yeah.
I'm looking in different directions. I'm looking for Howie Roseman to acknowledge the mistakes maybe that he's made in the past by not really caring or worrying or focusing on some of these positions of needs that the Eagles need. And that's where I want him to invest his money. That show me, because Howie Roseman, he is a cap genius. Yeah. Howie Roseman has put together a Super Bowl contender over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But he's not perfect. And even throughout the Super Bowl run, throughout last year, you notice the holes on this team where they're weakest.
Yeah.
Will he focus and will he invest money into those positions of need this offseason? We're going to find out with these lists, man. But I didn't rank anything. I didn't rank anybody, like you said before the show started. How am I going to sit here and give you my number 2 and then we sign number 3? I'll be just as happy that they signed number 3 than number 2. It's not necessarily I need this guy more or I want this guy more. These guys I'm about to throw at you are very, very, very talented, elite type of players that would fix some of the holes on this Eagles team. So I'll give you my 5, man, and then you give me your 5 and we kind of discuss. But
go from there.
In no particular order, I am going to go with Hunter right here. And I'm going to go with Patrick Queen. Is there any way the Eagles and Howie Roseman can bring in Patrick Queen this offseason? I'm not sure what kind of money it's going to take. And again, I know he has not given much thought or much money to the linebacker position, man, because there's holes there. Yeah. So Patrick Queen's number 1. Number 2, I do have the rumor on the outside from the beginning of the offseason. Can they find a way to bring in L'Jarius Sneed? I know there's some concerns about money and playing within that Spagnuolo scheme. And is he just another cog in the machine, man? But I think L'Jarius Sneed here in Philadelphia with that attitude, with that swagger, with that playmaking ability, I think would be a huge, huge upgrade. Obviously issues when it comes to money already invested in the cornerback position with James Bradbury and with Darius Slay, but it'll be interesting to see what he does with Bradbury this year. So L'Jarius Sneed. Then I'm going to go to the safety spot, and I'm going to go with Justin Simmons, who has the familiarity with Vic Fangio. He brings a veteran presence to this defense. And then I'm going to go younger, and I'm going to go to Big Blue and take the kid from Xavier McKinney. He might be my number 1 target overall. 24 years old, Scotty, and already an elite playmaker in the secondary. Yeah, you could lock down potentially one of those spots with Xavier McKinney for years to come, depending on the type of deal he wants to hammer out. And I'm going to stay in the Big Blue. This dude has an argument to be number 2 or 3 on my list. And I'm going to go with who we talked about on Friday, and I'm going with Saquon Barkley. I think we need to cut the bullshit. I think we need to stop talking about injury concerns, stop talking about money, stop talking about what Howie Roseman wants to do. Listen, if Howie Roseman's not going to be interested in Saquon Barkley, he's not going to be interested in Patrick Queen because he hasn't cared about putting money in linebackers either. So these all go hand in hand.
Not learning.
I believe it was Michael Lombardi tweeted about it this morning that he did not believe the mutual interest was there or the interest from the Eagles side was there because Howie has never invested money there. But apparently it's true. And at noon, they're going to be big players once tampering begins for Saquon Barkley. Bring him home, man. That's where I'm at. Again, let's cut through the shit. The dude is the ultimate weapon. He is the ultimate playmaker you could put on this offense. We talk every year hypotheticals. Jalen Hurts with his dual threat ability behind this offensive line. A.J. Brown on one side. Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert over the middle. But the one thing we've been missing. Last year we had DeAndre Swift. He made a Pro Bowl. He got over 1,000 yards. He was not utilized the way we wanted him to necessarily be utilized. You bring in Saquon Barkley and you pay Saquon Barkley, not 1 year, $8 million. You give Saquon Barkley a 2-3 year deal somehow. Nick Sirianni will be forced to use Saquon Barkley the way he's supposed to be used. And to Hunter's point right here, give me Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley in the backfield together. Yeah. Give me that read option threat. Give me that just all around playmaking ability and give defenses hell, man. If you have too many holes on defense to fill every single one of them, then put together an offense that teams just won't be able to compete with. And that's not what we got out of this offense last year, Scotty. We got a stagnant, unserious, unconfident looking offense. You bring in a guy like Saquon Barkley out of the backfield, and that changes everything from a playmaking standpoint.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And I think the big thing with Saquon there, man, that kind of gets overlooked because I feel like there's this idea that, you can go out and get Saquon, but you could just bring back Swift and have similar skill set.
And I would be fine with bringing back DeAndre Swift.
I get it, but I get that conversation, but it isn't the same. Like I'm a huge DeAndre Swift guy, and I love him, and I would love to have him back. I literally bought his jersey. It's fake, so I didn't spend top dollar on it. It was like $50. Yeah. I still bought it though.
Better
it's
than buying a baseball
it's a guy.
At the moment.
It's a guy that I knew may not be here after the season, right? Like he was a 1 year guy brought in a trade that was set to expire after the season. I knew that there was a chance that Howie Roseman wouldn't be willing to even pay him. Yeah. But with that being said, if you're looking to improve the position, and the difference between DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley is that you're just not going to see a Kenny Gainwell on like third downs or, in pass protection situations. Saquon Barkley can handle both loads. He can handle it in the receiving. He can handle running, and he can handle pass protection. And I think that's the biggest thing when you look at bringing in a Saquon Barkley specifically, not one of these other running backs in the market, right? The best option of running back in the market and what he's going to bring to your team. So I do actually like that you pointed that out. And there's a point that I forgot about last week, but kind of wanted to bring to this week as we approach, these talks that
I
are
agree,
coming.
Scott.
So
I agree, Hunter. I think it's absolutely delusional.
it is delusional.
Again, cut through the injury concern. Well, DeAndre Swift's had injury concern.
He has
as well.
injuries concern. Yeah.
Cut what I'm trying to do right now. And again, I know with Hassan Reddick, we've talked money, and you do have to pay attention to it because we can't just act like a delusional fan base that's playing Madden with the cap, limit turned off, right? And you can do whatever you want. You have to keep money in the account. But what I'm trying to do this offseason is get a little bit more back into just being a fan and stop worrying. Like, it ain't my money, bro. And if Howie Roseman's going to figure it out, Howie Roseman can figure it out. I'm not going to sit here. If the Eagles give Saquon Barkley 2 years at $25 million, but could have given DeAndre Swift 1 year at $7 million, I'm going, no, it's not my problem. I'm happy that Saquon Barkley's here. Let's get to work.
Great point.
That's where I'm at.
It's a great point, man, and I think that's a big thing right now across the board, man. Complete side note, it's something I'll get into that with the Sixers later, actually. So never mind, I won't bring it up now. Let me give you my guys here that I have listed down here, and they're very similar to yours. And what I'll do, just so I don't give the exact same names, I'll give another option, but same idea, right? Like that's kind of where I'll go with this list. That being said, number one option, number one target for me is kind of where you're at, and I'm not going to differ away here. Xavier McKinney from the Giants. I think 24 years old, it makes so much sense, man. Like, stop with the 30-year-old safeties. If you have to go out and you have to settle for Justin Simmons, it is just that. It's settling. He's not the number one target.
Should not be,
Yeah, he shouldn't be. Is he a great consolation prize? Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and disrespect Justin Simmons. He's still a great player. He's not Kevin Byard per se, right? Like, he's got juice.
To ignore an attempt for Xavier McKinney simply to just go get Justin Simmons is not something I want them to do.
It's repetitive of a past mistake, right? And I don't know. I think to Malcolm Jenkins level. When I think of bringing in an Xavier McKinney, you get him in his prime years of his career, right? Yeah. And that's what I see there with Xavier McKinney. So great call there. The next area that I'm going to that linebacker spot. You gave Patrick Queen. I'll give you Blake Cashman from Houston. I'll give you Devin White from Tampa Bay. Any option of those three. You could even throw old ass Bobby Wagner in there, and it's an upgrade. It's an upgrade to linebacker position. I'm leaning towards those first three names, though. Devin White's, the Patrick Queens, the Blake Cashmans, a little bit younger, a little bit more closer to their prime.
I did see a tweet over the weekend, with linebacker. The dude Huff from New York, that they're apparently really interested in. I don't know if you would include him in your top three or what. But
so he is on my list here, Bryce Huff, and apparently he's more of like that edge rusher linebacker
not
type.
Great against the run.
Like a Hassan Reddick, right? Like he's going to be another version of that. My guess is that they just think he's younger. If he can give you the same production, it's going to be more worth the money in that case. So yeah, he is one of the top five because I do think with all these rumors, man, with Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, at least one of these guys are going. Like one of these guys are getting moved, and for me, I hope it's Josh Sweat just because I don't know. I have like a stronger attachment to Hassan Reddick, but
I think anyone out there that says otherwise is somewhat ridiculous, man. Again, cut through the money, cut through the age, cut through it all. Who's the better player? Who's the more explosive player? Who's the more dangerous player? It's Hassan Reddick, and let me say something. We've said Hassan Reddick isn't on tier one with the Myles Garrett's and TJ Watts of the world. Yeah. Well, Josh Sweat is not on Hassan Reddick's tier.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's stop with I'd rather keep Josh Sweat because he's a little bit. Stop it.
And he has more injury concern than the older Hassan Reddick. Like this man has had reconstructive knee surgery. He's had neck injuries, and like knock on wood, these are injuries that he's had to deal with while he's been an Eagle. So I'm not trying to just throw him out like trash.
What's a great year for Josh Sweat? What's a great sack total prediction for Josh Sweat? Double digits. Is 10 and a half a great year for Josh Sweat? Probably. You know, it's a great year for Hassan Reddick. 15,
15,
16,
16,
17, in that ballpark. Now, again, we talked about maybe how that year was an outlier, but you know he can get there. There is no evidence or fact that Josh Sweat's going to give you 12, 13, 14 plus sacks.
Yeah, the most he had 11 in 2022 when we had the monster, arguably the best pass rush of all time, right? Like,
the same year, Reddick had like 18. Yeah, exactly.
16, 17 sacks, right? Yeah, exactly. So I think we agree there as well. We're keeping Hassan Reddick over Josh Sweat.
I would say, my bad, before you move on to your next piece here, I think what we're trying to get at with linebacker is, listen, will we be happy with a Bryce Huff or another edge rusher? Absolutely. You can never have too many edge rushers.
But we want that prototypical.
A traditional linebacker.
Yeah.
Give me one of them.
A tackling machine. I want a guy that's going to get us 150 tackles in a season. Like, that's
give me a guy, Scotty. Give me a guy that's viable in pass coverage against a tight end if need be. Like, give me someone that could just stay with a tight end over the middle of the field.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way, man. I'm with you all the way there. Then the next one I would go to. So I've kind of gone safety, linebacker. We're on the same page there. Other safeties I would mention: Cameron Curl from the Commanders. We already talked about Justin Simmons. Jeremy Chin from the Panthers. He's another young guy. Maybe spend a little bit less. You get him for a longer time. Maybe he goes into his prime while you have him. To go in a different route, and I'm going to go to the offensive side of the ball here. A tight end too, man. And this is something that I'm very interested in. Not really the names that are, I'm not like pigeonholing these guys as like top 5 free agent targets, but like the backup tight end is a top 5 position need in my eyes, as far as taking the offense to the next level, right? And for those times when Dallas Goedert, misses 2 or 3 games, whatever the case may be, whatever the injury might be, to have that second option, and more specifically, a second option as a receiver in that facet. And maybe that extends to wide receiver 3, right? Maybe it's a Tyler Boyd as that type of possession wide receiver 3 niche receiver. So that's what I'm going at in this part. Just another facet of the offense, preferably tight end, just because it can add with blocking as well. But I'm looking at guys like Noah Fant. He's obviously never touched really what he's supposed to be, but who knows? As a backup role, a lot less pressure. He might be able to excel here. Gerald Everett is the veteran guy that I kind of like as a receiving option coming from the Chargers. He can make some plays through the air as well. And like I said, has the veteran experience. So just looking at the tight end, wide receiver 3 type of position for the Eagles is definitely up there for me. Another one on offense, and I'm going to pivot to running back here because I'm with you. I want Saquon. If you can't get Saquon, then I think you immediately pivot back to DeAndre Swift ultimately. Because after Saquon Barkley, I don't think that – I don't know. Austin Eckler, I think the ruling's out on him. Like, he could have some juice left in there. I don't know if that was just the way he was being used in LA, but I kind of even lean Swift over him. It's so tough with running backs, right? When they get to a certain age, you start wondering, when is that cliff approaching? And it approaches very fast. And that's what concerns me. As soon as there's any type of dip in production, like in Austin Eckler last year, Derrick Henry, another guy, there's a lot of talk about him in the Cowboys. Now, mind you, do I want him going to the Cowboys? No. But would I go out and spend top dollar on Derrick Henry this offseason when there are so many other holes? And I would say that's the same thing for the Cowboys. I don't think I would do that. I think Saquon is that one outlier for the running back position this offseason, even with the names that are available. But the other position I'll go to on offense here, just to round out like my top 5 positions, I guess you could say, guard. I think if you can sign an experienced guard to take Jurgen's spot so he can move back to center, or vice versa, whatever you want to do there. But bringing in a veteran to put beside him, just to kind of, shore him up a little bit with Jason Kelsey leaving is definitely something I'm looking at. John Runyon Jr., he's the guy that obviously comes to mind with the history with his father playing for the Birds back in the day.
If there's one thing we know about the NFL draft, it is that every year it feels stockpiled with guards and tackles.
That
It
is
feels
true, and
loaded with guards.
that's
and
where
tackles.
you can address it, honestly. So
Correct,
that's
and but also on the other hand, if you can bring in a veteran presence that can fill that hole where Juergens moves to center for
yeah,
Kelsey, it allows you to, again, when we're talking about the team with Howie Roseman, do something a little different when it comes to draft night round one.
yeah,
Again, no one's saying you can't build in the trenches. No one's
yeah,
saying that you can't address depth at
yeah,
the guard or tackle position. It doesn't always have to be round one or two.
yeah,
You're third round guard, no
yeah,
problem. And you like third round guard that can develop. He's a depth piece, but this
yeah.
veteran can step right in and play on a 1-year deal while this student learns. You don't always need the new young draft piece to fill
I
right in,
agree.
man. Like I think
I agree.
I don't know what Tyler Steen's future here is. I don't know
It's a
where
good
he's
call.
going to fit, if
That's a
he's
good
going
call.
to work or not. But you already have him that can fill in somewhere. We'll see. I just like we talked about
Tyler
this on
Steen is a
Friday.
name I forgot. I mean, he looked decent when he came in. Like, he wasn't noticeable when he came in last year. So that is something to keep an eye on. And I do think, like, to your point, if you do address, maybe it's a backup guard you bring in and you give Tyler Steen the chance. I don't know what the move would be, but if you address it in free agency, maybe that opens up the door for a guy like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the draft. Like, just an example, right? Like you said, going in a different direction, maybe round 2, you take a linebacker finally. And now you have your young linebacker and your free agent linebacker that you brought in, and now our linebacking core is set for the future and for now. So I think there's a ton of different routes, and I think that's what we ultimately come to the conclusion here with these lists. There's not a lot of ways, honestly, that I feel like Howie Roseman can go wrong on paper this offseason, because there's a ton of names out there, man.
I don't think they're going to be shy this offseason. There's no way they can afford to be with that many holes. But you got to get out to a strong start today, man.
Get ahead of it.
The way that last season ended and left such a bad taste in our mouths.
Salty.
Yeah, you have to address as many needs as possible.
The major holes that we saw last year.
This isn't Madden, right? With the salary cap turned off and you can do whatever you want. We acknowledge that, but I'm sorry, man. I'm tired of we're sitting here questioning if Howie's going to be aggressive in getting Saquon Barkley. I shouldn't have to even worry about that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong to not give the Carolina Panthers are an example of a horribly run organization.
Yeah.
You gave Miles Sanders a 4-year, what was it, $60+ million deal? That's an example of not doing something crazy. He got beaten in start for 90% of the year last year. That's called a bad deal.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to worry about giving Saquon Barkley a 2-year deal because our GM doesn't concern himself with that position. That's a ridiculous statement.
Yeah. So is this let's ask that question. Is this I don't want to say a make or break off season for Howie Roseman, because I don't think his job is on the line by any means, but
I don't think so.
Sit here and do the same thing over and over and then get the same results.
Exactly.
Hence, bad linebacker play and mediocre safety play. I mean, defense as a whole, right?
Pretty bad.
Defense as a whole was mediocre. To not go out and address it aggressively would be a little odd almost, right? Because we've seen him correct mistakes in the past.
Mind you, listen, I don't think his job's not in question right now. Anyway.
Not at all. Not at all. I don't mean it that way.
You do have the heat and the pressure from the fan base of a decent majority does not want Nick Sirianni coaching this head team, or at least has a lot of questions heading into this year about Nick Sirianni. Yeah. I'm one of them. I have a lot of questions about what guy and what kind of play you're going to get out of this team.
Yeah, and that's a big question mark that is kind of underlying all of this.
You hooked yourself to Sirianni, right? So you stayed with him.
You need to make sure that Sirianni has everything he needs to potentially be successful this season. And it's funny, it's not to say that his job's on the line by any means. I just think we're on a downward trajectory right now as a fan base with Howie Roseman. Not to say he's in bad graces. I think we're all very confident in Howie Roseman. I think that's fair to say. But as far as trajectory, Super Bowl, collapse, off season now, question mark. Like before last off season, Howie Roseman was untouchable. He was untouchable.
I'm gonna stir this pot very quickly.
Go ahead.
And I'm joking. And I have 3 of his jerseys in my closet. You can never call me a hater. And I have full confidence in him. I want to throw that out on the table first and foremost. But QB1, better snap out of it. Because let me tell you, the whole Nick Sirianni, head coach, goes first, man. If things considered. You think?
We saw what happened to Carson Wentz. We have a bad history. Bad trajectory with quarterbacks getting paid and what happens after. So I do feel you, man.
I'm just starting to put. I'm not.
It is starting to pot, but
I'm just saying
he was part of that 7 to 8 game collapse last year. Everyone in the room is questioned. They're all rightfully questioned. Right. He just happens to be the guy that gets paid the most. Correct. That's all it is, man. And that's all it is.
He wasn't, problem number 1 or 2.
No, not at all.
And that play calling, the defense, everything. But the offensive line play, it was bad all around. But the interceptions in Seattle to really start the downfall,
the downward spiral.
There's moments. So
the irritability
Howie Roseman,
that we saw.
Howie Roseman's job is not in question right now.
Yeah,
you give 6 weeks of bad football and non-inspiring play by the quarterback. Head coach and quarterback are going to come into question, and Howie Roseman has kind of tied himself to these two by bringing Sirianni back. And obviously with the contract of Jalen. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason.
Great point, man.
Again, you want QB1 to really work, go get him Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Go get him.
That will open the run game right back up, right? He'll be able to use his legs all he wants.
Yeah, exactly. But as I'm sitting here, man.
I just wanted to touch on well, go ahead and say what you were going to say. I can touch on this.
No. Go ahead. I was going to say something else about Saquon, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to just go in the route of Fletcher Cox. So I didn't know if you wanted to move. Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that. It sucks, man. It sucks.
Him and Kelsey in the same offseason?
It sucks, but it makes you realize how awesome being an Eagles fan is and how grateful we should be. Because someone had tweeted this out, and it's very, very true. There's not many guys that play their entire careers with one organization. And I don't mean a guy that has a 4 or 5 year career and calls it quits or whatever the case. I'm talking about a long decade-plus run. And the Eagles just had 2 of them retire in the same year, and a third come back on a 1-year cheap deal in Brandon Graham for a farewell tour, basically. That's incredible. Jason Kelsey, we actually did a segment on because of just the personality, being the best center ever. But Fletcher Cox was probably the most underappreciated part of all this. And the last couple of years have been weird when it comes to Fletcher Cox. You go back to the early 2010s, the mid-2010s, even our Super Bowl, Fletcher Cox was the most dominant force on the middle of a defensive line across the league.
Yeah.
He was Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald. Yeah. Granted, Aaron Donald is better than Fletcher Cox.
Absolutely. But he was in the conversation at one point. He was
the dude
with Aaron Donald.
That had to be double-teamed every snap of every offensive play for opponents, because you could not afford to let him break through, and he still broke through 80% of the time. He was for years on years on years. He stayed here, 1-year deal. Remember, what was it, 2 years ago? We released him, and we thought that Fletcher Cox era was over. He came back on a 1-year deal. The fact that you lose him and Kelsey in the same year stings, man. And
Yeah.
it does, like, you're right. It does bring a new era sense to it, a new kind of turning the
Yeah.
page, and let's see what the younger guys can do. But when it comes to a leadership and veteran perspective, that's another
Yeah.
piece that's like very important with free agency is
Yeah.
how does Howie fill those voids of voices and leaders within the locker room?
Yeah, and I think, just on that final point you made there, just about kind of, what I've been talking about since the Jason Kelsey news, like a new era, chance for Jalen Hurts to, emphasize his voice in the locker room, AJ Brown, so on and so forth, all these younger guys. But at the same time, it's just like we talk about with like the new age of fandom and the new age of everything, right, in life, and these new eras of these new generations, I guess. And I'm gonna sound like an old head here, but what worries me with guys like Fletcher, Jason Kelsey moving on is that we are going to be gravitating more towards the me type of leadership, the me type of stance. And it's not to say Jalen Hurts and these guys are those type of people. It's just to say the new generation, are these new guys? Like, let me ask you this. We've watched Lane Johnson, right, play through torn ligaments, torn abdomens, and play through it just to give the team some help, to give them their sturdy right side on the offensive line. Is AJ Brown like doing these? Like, are these players? And it's not to criticize them. I'm not saying that that's the smartest thing for themselves.
No, it's not healthy either.
Put yourself on the line for your team is completely selfless, and it's an act of leadership that I don't know that we're going to see anymore. And that's what worries me a little bit.
Listen,
that's what
Jason Kelsey missed maybe 2 starts over his entire career. And he had streak of however many starts in a row, like an Eagles record, an NFL record, or whatever it was. Fletcher Cox, I believe, missed 6 games or a little bit more. I could be wrong, or 6 games over the last X amount of years. And it's been a long time. Like Fletcher Cox was as durable as they come as well. Now, you'd see him again as the older he got, you'd see him down, timeout used, he's hurt, he's out for a few, but he's always back in. To your point, again,
blue collar guy. That's what I'm trying to say. These are blue collar guys. I don't think Jalen Hurts and AJ, maybe I'm wrong. They don't feel like blue collar guys to me. Devontae Smith feels like a blue collar guy to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much into that, but that is the one concern that I do get from losing multiple guys like that, that have put their heart into the organization. Like, they're Eagles.
Well, listen,
they're Eagles, and with Jalen, with these other players, it feels like they could be doing this anywhere, right? Like AJ Brown.
I was just gonna say that.
He said that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, this is where Darius Slay wearing the captain's patch goes even further south, because you have 2 dudes that played their entire careers here and had nothing but unbelievable things to say about the fan base and its passion and just an understanding of what it takes to be that guy, to play here, and when they boo and why they boo and the reason. Brandon Graham wanting to come back for $4 million or whatever this deal is for 1 more year is showing you what it looks like to want to be here. And then you have other dudes just complaining about it and acting dumb as if they don't know the reasoning. Like, again, I'm not going to get back into this rant about what's been going on, but I think to your point, don't become unlikable.
Yeah.
And over the last 2+ years, we got rid of it, there were pieces on this team that, like, the younger core was becoming very unlikable on social media. Like, the whole world's against me, like, posts and cryptic messages because they got booed at home. Like, don't do that. And when you lose Kelsey and Fletch and you're about to lose BG and you're losing these guys that understood what it takes here.
Yeah.
And we don't know if the next era can handle it or who can handle it.
Because those guys might be the guys in the locker room when, I'm not going to say any more names. I'm not going to use any more example names.
And by the way, what does this tell you? What does this tell you?
Yeah.
There was absolutely a fucking head coaching problem last year. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is interesting because it's like, Kelsey and Cox, those could be the guys in the locker room when, a said player is about to tweet out something after a game, like, oh, you want to boo me today? These could be the guys that are advising them otherwise, right? And that's where that concern, like you said, comes into the picture. But Fletcher Cox specifically, though, just to kind of piggyback with everything you said about him, I do think he's almost underrated, almost underappreciated in a sense as well. Maybe it's just because of kind of the trajectory where, like you said, 2010s was really Fletcher Cox time, right? Like he was in his prime, arguably the best defensive tackle in the league. Whereas Jason Kelsey has kind of come into fruition the last few years as the best center in the NFL. He's got the podcast. So I do think Fletcher almost comes with a little bit of underappreciation.
Right. They were flipped, right?
Yeah.
Like Kelsey's durability and longevity at the position is kind of what has made him like infamous, right?
Yeah.
Where Fletcher came out of the chute a dominant tackle 5, 6, 7 years go by since he's truly been like the best in the league, and it slips your mind, right?
Yeah.
Like it's probably been pre-Super Bowl since he's been that Super Bowl year. He was very, 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 very good.
Yeah.
Was he elite the Super Bowl winning year in 2017? I don't recall. So like I remember him being a huge piece, but not 2015 Fletcher Cox or not 2014 Fletcher Cox. So
no, I do agree.
It's been a while, and that's kind of where you forget, and recency bias plays a factor, and it's a shame because it's like you let a bad 2023 reflect like how you feel about Fletcher Cox, and it shouldn't be the case because he's one of the greatest Eagles to ever lace him up, and he played his entire career here. So
let me ask you this for both sides of the trenches. So looking at Jason Kelsey and like who's going to replace him, so on and so forth. Who do you think in each of those units like could take that vocal leadership responsibility? Like, do you think it would be a Lane Johnson? Lane Johnson's always a little bit more chill. I feel like he's a laid back.
Lane's more timid.
Maybe it's Mailata. Landon Dickerson has a bigger voice now. I don't know. It's kind of what I'm asking. Like,
it's funny, man, because Lane's obviously outspoken about certain things. I think Lane's definitely a leader, but
he's a leader,
you're right? Like, I think Lane is more of a lead by example type of guy.
Yeah.
Mailata maybe. Then you have Juergens and Dickerson who are like big country boys. Maybe one of them's outspoken. Younger. I don't know. I think the thing I can hang my hat on is you have Jeff Stoutland. And Jeff Stoutland's never going to let this unit get out of control. And I think they're a very close-knit unit. And it's not just making the Christmas albums. I think the offensive line, I think, is very close. The defensive line, to your point about me, is it more me over there? Obviously, you have BG for one more year, so he can kind of hold things down right now. But if you look past that, Reddick might not be here, Sweat might not be here, and neither one of them do I see as like
they're not huge leaders. Yeah.
Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter still seems I'm not holding anything against them for getting
a little immature though.
It's a little bit of and that's fine. Like that's going to come.
Young.
Jordan Davis does not seem like an outspoken kind of guy, and no offense,
goofy
bro,
guy.
If you can't play 4 snaps in a row,
you can't lead.
You can't be a vocal leader because you can't even keep your ass on the field. So I don't know on the defense.
Maybe it's a linebacker. That's what they need to do.
Exactly. Like it doesn't
needs
have
to be a linebacker.
Unit. You don't have it in the secondary. James Bradbury's not the leader they're looking for.
Fuck no.
Slay is not going to be that hammer down, let's get right type of vocal leader. You don't have it in the safety room, and you don't have it in the line. The defense, besides Brandon Grant, does not have a leader. That's why this.
Nakobe Dean has
very important
leadership qualities, but to your point, he's not. He's not playing at the level where you can lead. Like you just.
He's not playing. You can't lead when you're not playing. No, who the fuck's going to listen to you? Like,
very true.
Like
very true.
Like so. That's again. I want Saquon Barkley here, and I think that's kind of the difference. I think when Howie's looking defensively, I think he has to look for those kind of qualities. I think you need
a leader,
hard nosed, tough hitting. I'll take your head off. Just gritty kinds of
I
dudes.
thought Kevin Byard was that, right? Like we
He's
thought
not.
we were getting that, but he's another quiet guy. I want somebody that's going to yell. Like I want somebody that's going to express
You
themselves on
know
the
who
field.
seems like that?
Yeah.
Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
Patrick Queen seems like that.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons, I don't know what personality Justin Simmons has. I do know he's a veteran, and I know he knows Vic Fangio's system.
Yeah.
He could be that kind of teacher.
And he's a hard-nosed safety. He is.
L'Jarius Sneed. He's got swagger, bro.
Yeah.
He's a vocal out there. So he's got a little bit of dog in him, right?
This is exactly what we're talking about, Marshawn. This is exactly what we're talking. This is exactly what the Eagles need.
And on the other side of things, like that. To my point, you're looking for that on defense. On the other side of things, just bring in the best talent you can on offense.
Yeah.
And that's where Saquon Barkley comes into play. I don't need any leader. I don't need nothing. Bring in the most talented dude at whatever position you're looking at, and let's go. Kellen Moore's here. I'm interested to see what this offense looks like. I know I stirred the pot a second with that Jalen conversation. I have confidence that Jalen Hurts is going to be okay. Is he going to be 2022 Jalen Hurts? Was that MVP 17-game season an outlier? I don't know. But you know what I know, Scotty? I know that dude outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
So that's
what I know. And I don't think that's just an effing fluke, okay?
Yeah.
Right?
It's in there.
It wasn't Nick Foles outplaying Tom Brady. Nick Foles can't do it for a full 16, 17-game season. Jalen Hurts did it for a full season and then outplayed the greatest on the field in the Super Bowl and should have had a chance to win it at the end. That's not a fluke. I think he was injured last year. I do think there were some issues when it comes to leadership and the money and the contract and the locker room turmoil. You get that straightened out this year. He gets healthier. He gets that dual threat ability and explosiveness with his legs back. And we run it back. But that's where you bring me Saquon Barkley. 12:05 today. Eagles signed Saquon Barkley to a 2-year deal. Please. Yeah, exactly. Scotty brought that up earlier.
This is what I would classify as a consolation prize. Like Bobby Wagner, but we're still going in that retirement direction, right? Like I want to go kind of away from that. Like Patrick Queen, Blake Cashman, these guys are guys that are entering, they're like mid-20s. They're entering their prime years of linebacker play. And that's what I'm looking at here. That's what I really want. Not to say I don't want Bobby Wagner. I would take Bobby Wagner. He's an upgrade. That's as simple as that. But it is kind of a consolation prize. Funny, I was just scrolling through Twitter. I just wanted to see if anything, popped up. Looks like T. Higgins has requested a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals after being franchise tagged. So interesting, man. Interesting there. I was looking just to see if there was anything Eagles related, but I do not see anything right now. So maybe that means it's time to talk about the Sixers, man. But the T. Higgins thing is interesting. It's interesting on how many players is this going to happen with, because there's just not enough money to go around for these big name teams. But
stir up some drama in the Bay as well. But I agree. We'll see what plays out there. It's tough, man. Like we said before, it's the NFL. To me, the NFL is so backwards from the NBA. The NBA has drawn me towards like being annoyed when it comes to players and contracts and forcing trades and and just drama and the way they get themselves out of deals.
Yeah.
A la Damian Lillard signs a 5-year extension on the max and 1 year later forces his way out. James Harden, 4 teams, 5 teams in 3 years. Like, just, it's ridiculous. On the reverse, it's like the NFL, which is obviously the more brutalizing type of sport for your health and then future and age. The NFL is like, they handicap some of these position dudes. Like, we're talking about Saquon Barkley. Like, Saquon Barkley has not gotten a fair shake of anything. Like, just franchise tag.
Think about Tobias Harris
now
on a
he's hit the
$37
open
million
market,
contract.
and it's like, apparently the market's saturated and no one's going to give him big money. T. Higgins can't even get paid in Cincinnati. Is any team going to throw him big money?
He can't even get a chance at getting paid in free agency because they franchise tag.
It's so flipped, man. It's so
it is
when it comes to
the NFL teams have complete control. NBA teams have borderline zero control.
Exactly.
So it is complete opposite, man. I agree.
It's nuts, but here we go. Philadelphia 76ers.
We have a shot at the 4 seed and the 10 seed.
Yeah. They get their first win last night at Madison Square Garden. without Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. They snapped the losing streak they were on with an outstanding 79-point victory. Scotty set the game back to the 1960s for a second. Listen, am I going to come on here and praise anything that they did last night? No. But what's that old saying we love week to week with the Philadelphia Eagles, Scotty? A win is a win, my man. And they needed this one desperately. And if I can praise anything, they played exceptionally well on the defensive end.
Something that's been lacking.
I mean, dude, the New York Knicks shot under 33% from the floor. Now, how much was that just an awful night for the home team versus what the Sixers actually accomplished? Probably a mixture of both. But the fact that you were able to hold a team to under 75 points in this day and age, this was not the New York Knicks without Jalen Brunson. Now, I get it. They're still missing Julius Randle and OG Anunoby. But they have been missing those two for some time. They got Jalen Brunson back for the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, still out there. Bojan Bogdanovic, out there. Like, all these guys were available to them, and it wasn't enough. It's a big win for the Sixers in terms of just, needing to get that bad taste out of their mouth, that losing taste. Yeah. Obviously, getting booed at home. Kelly and Paul Reed had to talk about it with the press conferences after the Pelicans game. You had to come out and find a way to get a win, and I think they did. And honestly, man, is it almost kind of like perfect or good that they did it in like that ugly, gritty way? Because it's not like without Maxey and Embiid and Melton and these other guys that the Sixers just had a outstanding shooting night somehow and scored 119 and beat the Knicks. It's like they could play better. Like they're not going to play great, but they could play better than they did. So it leaves room for improvement. What I'm trying to say. Yeah. And you still got the win.
Yeah, and I would imagine.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What the fuck is going on with Tyrese Maxey?
That's exactly where
I'm very confused, bro.
That's exactly where I was about to go. Yeah, I mean the concussion, right? Like it's been what, 4 games?
Yeah.
4 games in like over a week, I guess.
Yeah. They allowed him to go back out there against the Mavericks.
Yeah. I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't understand.
It wasn't even like the day. It wasn't even like the day after or that night they brought up the concussion thing. It was the afternoon of the next game 2 days later where they were like, "Oh, Maxey's now out tonight because of concussion symptoms."
But he was there. He was at the game last night. He was on the bench.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, so it's not like the lighting is like affecting his.
Yeah.
I remember when Embiid had a concussion.
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
So maybe it's just like they got to get him back into game shape type of thing. Like I don't know. What I was gonna say. Great W before you hopefully get him back on Tuesday. Like I would imagine he's gonna play on Tuesday tomorrow against the Knicks. So. To get that W on the road against the Knicks, against a team you are competing for playoff standings right now, huge W, no matter how you get it, right? A win is a win, like you said. It was pretty incredible to see this scoring output. The biggest thing for me, man, and the biggest thing that I was like worried about, and it's something I talked to you before the show about, and it's these Nova guys, man, in the NBA. They have this fucking extra energy for the Sixers every single time that they play. And to see guys like Jalen Brunson go 1 for 9 from the 3-point line, to see Dante DiVincenzo go 3 for 12 from the 3-point line, Josh Hart 1 for 7 from the 3-point line. They just couldn't kill us that night. And it just shows me like there isn't some bad juju in the air. Like, if we play them in a playoff series, we can beat them. Those guys aren't going to go nuclear every single fucking night. The other side of that is Dante DiVincenzo. What the fuck is your problem? Like, I don't know. What is the issue with Kelly Oubre?
I have his Villanova jersey upstairs.
It's weird,
closet, bro. I'm a like.
I'm not a Nova fan. He's one of my favorite players that has came from Nova. Like, don't get it wrong. Like, he's one of my. He's one of the guys I wanted from Nova on the Sixers.
You know what it was, Scotty? it was the fact that he was 3 for 12 from three. It was the fact that Brunson was one. It was a complete and utter frustration of we have 62 points right now.
And Oubre's laughing at you.
Yeah, he did nothing. He literally, it was borderline a foul. He got bumped from behind. Kelly lost his balance, held himself up over him. And because Kelly Oubre didn't get from over top of him in 0.2 seconds, he threw a fucking hissy fit. And then just throw a hissy fit. Like, I mean, one thing if he like looked up and was pissed off that Kelly was on top standing over him, so he like threw the ball at him or something, or like
get up and push him,
or swiped his leg, just swiped his knee or whatever. Bro, like looked up in 0.3 seconds and just double leg wrapped up Kelly Oubre while Isaiah Hartenstein comes over and fucking tabletops him basically and pushes him. And I think the funniest thing about that little mix up, Kelly laughing was hilarious. But B, like the NBA, the officiating is so ass backwards. How the hell does Paul Reed get the same punishment for what those two did? If you could tee up Paul Reed for maybe escalating the situation, if you want to say he escalated the situation, he wasn't pulling, he got into the pile, maybe threw a little shove or whatever. You want to tee up Paul Reed? He's gonna have to pay a
fine for that. You know what I mean?
Tee up Paul Reed. Then Dante DiVincenzo should be ejected from the game, or at least a flagrant one.
Yeah, there's levels.
It's 2 shots and Philly's ball. Instead, we got 1 free throw, and it was New York's ball. How does that make any fucking sense with what just happened on this play? So, just NBA, it was ridiculous. Man. I don't know what crawled up his ass besides frustration on how the Knicks were playing themselves. Kelly Oubre Jr. literally did nothing wrong. So it was very odd to see. And even, like, Hartenstein, like, you're weird, bro. Like, so, all right, DiVincenzo's throwing a hissy fit. Kelly wasn't doing anything. Kelly didn't, swipe down at him when he even grabbed his legs. Hartenstein just runs over and pushes him. Like,
tabletops him, like you said.
You could argue that Hartenstein's the one that could be ejected because he had nothing to do with the play and ran over and two-hand shoved somebody who had their legs wrapped up.
But Paul Reed puts an arm out to protect his player, and it's fouling him, and then he'll get fined on top of it as well.
Exactly.
For no reason. But.
It was ridiculous. They need we were talking earlier, and it's like jokingly, but the double technical is the most asinine thing to ever be assessed in the NBA. It does nothing. It solves nothing. It's pointless. The whole point of like a technical, besides like a coach freaking out or a player showing up a ref, a technical when it comes to like a little back and forth or an argument or some shoving, the point of to assess technicals and stuff is to de-escalate the situation. And hey, that's strike one. Calm the fuck down, or you're gone.
Yeah. Don't be involved.
When you just give both guys, you just give both guys a tee, it's like okay, so nothing happened.
Slap on the wrist.
Yeah, exactly. So.
No, I agree.
It's pretty stupid, man. It's pretty stupid. But
how did you feel about the move of Buddy Hield to the bench? I mean, what I'll say to start with that question is it seemed like it worked last night. He went 4 for 6 from the 3-point line. I don't know if it sparked him, what the case was. Maybe he just got out of his funk. What did you think?
I would say this. Am I mad at it? No, not really. Buddy took it pretty well on the floor, like you said. Hopefully he's okay. I hope he does not pop up on the injury report with that ankle or foot injury. But again, I literally was going to text you and be like, "Oh, look at that, 4th quarter, and Buddy Hield's knocking down clutch threes." Who would have fucking thought? Because you never played him before in the 4th quarter. But
like, if that's what it takes to get him in the 4th quarter, then so be it.
The issue is the game before this, he shot like 2 of 12. So I can't sit here and defend how Buddy Hield was playing or shooting the ball.
Yeah,
he played well. I understand with all these injuries, Nick's got to find things that work and shuffle things around. The issue I have is that he's the one that caught the short end. And what does this mean for when Embiid and Maxey are back? Like, because Buddy Hield needs to be starting when Maxey and Embiid are playing, and it's playoff time.
I'm looking at
that. That's the fit. That's the whole point of Buddy Hield being here, correct?
Yeah.
And I get the money, man. Explain to me how fucking Tobias Harris can continue to do what he's doing, and there's nothing. There's no punishment. There's no bench. There's no nothing. But Buddy Hield has a bad 2 or 3 game shooting night, and he's the one that gets benched. Hey, well, Nick, guess what? Cam Payne shot 3 of 13 last night. Is he going to be benched on Tuesday back for Buddy Hield? Because that didn't work, apparently. Yeah, it worked on Buddy's side, but the dude you put in the starting lineup was ass cheeks.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah,
know.
no,
I
no,
don't
you make great points, and it's exactly where I was going with this conversation. Can we sit here and defend Buddy and say he needs 35 minutes a night right now? No, he's not playing that well going into this game. But is he playing so much worse than everyone else that out of the 1, 2, so 5, you had 9 guys play last night. He got the 7th most minutes out of everyone. The only players that didn't play more than him was Mo Bamba and KJ Martin, rightfully so, obviously. But you're telling me that Nick Batum needs 31 minutes. He needs more minutes than Buddy. Tobias Harris, 38 minutes last night.
Yeah.
38. Like 30. Like, so with Buddy, it's to the bench when he's struggling. But with Tobias Harris, let's crank it up a notch with the minutes. Like, that doesn't make sense.
In a game that the Sixers won by 6, Tobias Harris was a -3. Buddy Hield was a +19.
Jeez,
in a game where Buddy Hield played 5 less minutes than Nico Batum, he scored 16 more points. In a game where Buddy Hield played 12 less minutes than Tobias Harris, he scored 5 more points. I agree. I'm not understanding. Now, again, he did get hurt, so he probably would have played over 30 minutes had he not gotten
that's
injured.
fair.
So that's one thing to look at that I kind of forgot about for a second. But I will say this, my takeaway from you pointing this out, Tobias Harris is the luckiest motherfucker that the Sixers won this game last night. Or, oh my God, I cannot imagine what would be happening, man. In a night where, let's just say the Sixers lost 82-79. Could you imagine they hold a team to 82 points and lose, and he has the kind of night he's been having? 5 of 14 shooting, 11 points, a -3 in the plus.
And 1 for 3 from the free. Like, it's only 3 free throws, but goddamn, dude, they're free.
0 for 4 from 3. He was 0 for 5 from 3 the night before against the Pelicans.
And it's just, the point is, this is a time where all eyes are on you, dude. Like, we are looking at you. And this is still what you're putting on the court.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And that's what makes you worry about the postseason. Because, all eyes won't be on you when Embiid or Maxey are playing.
Yeah.
But what it tells me with what you're doing right now is that moments are too big for you. And how the fuck am I supposed to trust you in a game 6 or 7 when the moment's that big?
Not a chance, man. Let me ask you this. When Embiid and Maxey come back, maybe it's not Hield that takes the L. Maybe it like, in a reality, if you were Nick Nurse, take contracts out of the situation. Is Tobias Harris getting benched for Nicholas Batum? I can't even get his name out. I wanted to say Nico or Nicholas. Nico Batum. Is he getting benched for Nico Batum? Not in reality, because it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
But
it hasn't happened yet.
Is Nico Batum not a better fit next to Embiid, Maxey, Hield, and then maybe it's Oubre? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think without a doubt, it's what should probably happen unless he has a month straight of spectacular basketball.
Yeah, but it won't.
But you could also, and again, that's where the fit comes in. And I know it sounds stupid when he's given a max contract and the fits had to have been there for the last 3 to 4 years in the starting lineup. But you could argue, obviously, with the way Batum and Hield fit around him, Tobias coming off the bench. I know he's not shooting or scoring well, but that's the one thing you need him to kind of do.
He can come in and get his mid-range shots when Embiid's off
maybe
the floor.
He can do that off the floor from Joel. So, yeah, absolutely, man. It won't happen again. You said the politics, Morey, the money, it plays a factor in this situation. And a max contract guy is not going to be benched for a guy on an expiring deal that you traded for this season. But it's really ugly, Scotty. And to your point, man, like, how is this moment too big for you, dog? Like how is playing the New York Knicks on a Sunday night? How is playing? I mean, he had 18 against the Pelicans, so he wasn't awful against the Pelicans. The whole team was, but who do we lose to? The Grizzlies. How is playing the Grizzlies at home in the middle of the week in February? How is that too big of an issue for you, bro?
What was the one before that? The Nets.
The Nets.
I mean, come on. I mean, and like against the Knicks last night, who was even guarding him on the Knicks? Like,
I know.
Is it Dante DiVincenzo? Like, who the fuck is guarding him?
He only scored 11 points. He did not shoot well, but it wasn't even just that.
He wasn't aggressive
How
even.
about the 2-on-1 he had where he telegraphed the pass and he just Dante DiVincenzo just snatched it out of the air? How about the end of the game? Now, mind you, he's very, very lucky the Knicks turned the ball right back over and he deflected the pass for it to go off Brunson's arm. How about when he picked up his dribble at half court when they're trying to foul and gets the pass deflected, and then he's yelling at his teammates to come.
Listen, God!
I'm not saying that he's technically wrong. Like they should come to the ball, shorten the distance. It wouldn't have mattered, asshole. The pass got knocked down, and it made it nowhere near your target. So it didn't matter if he came to the ball; that he wasn't getting the ball because you picked up your dribble and turned the ball over. I'm tired of it. Like, Scotty, this dude's supposed to be we just talked about the Eagles.
Yeah.
And leadership and veteran presence and IQ. He looks like the dumbest player on the court. He looks like he has the least amount of experience on the court. And it's the complete opposite. He's the veteran. He's supposed to be the guy that's steady, that's calm, that gets guys in their spots. And he looks like he doesn't know what's going on half the time. I can't take it, man. I just – like, even last night to close that game, I know Kelly Oubre Kelly Oubre shot like shit.
Yeah.
But he was aggressive. He had 18 points in the third. He had 18 in the third quarter. And, like, I'm watching this fourth quarter, and Kelly Oubre Jr. sits from the 4:30 mark of the third quarter to the 7-minute mark of the fourth quarter, or 6.5-minute mark of the fourth quarter. All while Tobias Harris is out there not doing a goddamn thing. They could play the same position, Scotty. They could do like you. I don't know. I can't take the leash. Listen, you're not going to bench him. Fine. Then you need to fix his role within the game and how he's playing. If he's playing like he's playing last night, there's no fucking excuse that Tobias Harris should be playing the entire fourth quarter to finish this game.
Because honestly,
and I really like Nick Nurse, but I don't know what he's doing with this situation, man.
Honestly, I think there's been conversations rightfully in the past about Tobias Harris's fit, his role with the Sixers, his responsibilities with the Sixers. I think this season, last season, were the first few times where I started to see, I don't know if it's a regression on his end. I don't know if it's a lack of care about the city. I don't know if it's the lack of connection with the fans. He's a problem to the organization. And that's where it becomes a line, right? Like, I think at first there was a lot of disgruntled fans, and to an extent, I thought they were a little out of place at times at the beginning of Tobias' start. But as it is trajected over this span of watching him play, be a leader, be a focal point of this team,
it's gotten worse.
It's gotten worse. It's not getting, let alone better. It's getting monumentally worse. The lows are getting lower.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. The effort is not there. The charisma, the leadership is not there from a visual standpoint. Maybe he is leading in the locker room. Seems like the players do have respect for him. But he doesn't. It's almost like he just doesn't respect the game himself or something. I don't know. I'm over it, man. I'm over it. Yeah. I'm over it. I'm ready for him to be off the team. And any way we can like maneuver through this last few months in the playoffs.
Just wait till he signs a new 4-year deal.
Oh my God, man. And you know, like, it's hard for me to say, like, oh, I'll stop being a Sixers fan. But like, I mean, that's malpractice. Jesus. Like, I'm not gonna be a fan of anyone. Like, I'll be a Sixers fan at the end of the day through my heart. But like, my God, if you sign this guy back to a 4-year deal, I don't even care what the price point is, man. I don't want him back on the team. It's not a good fit. Doesn't fit. Don't know where he does fit, but it ain't on this team, man. And that's where I'm at with him. But great W for the Sixers nonetheless. You hope that they can pull off a second straight one against the
W for the Sixers.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully they get Maxey back next game. That'll give them a little bit of a boost, right? Like that evens the play field a little bit.
If he's not back by Tuesday, I believe. Because it was the Sunday game in Dallas that he hit his head, right? But then he came back. So that Tuesday game, I mean, you're pushing 10 days with that. And I mean, my God, there's dudes that get a concussion on one Sunday and play the next Sunday. So, and that's football. So I'm not understanding if he doesn't play Tuesday, I'm not understanding it. Up to this point, I get it. but I don't know how they allowed him to go back out there that
Yeah.
Sunday against Dallas.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like to your point, if you're recovering from a concussion, being on the bench at Madison Square Garden and jumping up with your teammates is
Yeah.
probably not where you're supposed to be if you're actually not okay. So
So if it's
you'd
a
have to assume he
conditioning
plays
thing,
Tuesday. If he doesn't play Tuesday, I would say I
yeah.
have no idea what's going on.
If it's a
with Tyreek
conditioning
Evans.
thing, then he should play Tuesday. If
Yeah,
it's just conditioning to get him back
1000%.
in the flow, right? Like, so
Yeah,
Tuesday will tell a lot, I would say.
yeah. All right. That's going to do this one, man. We have what? An hour and a half until the tampering period opens up. So we'll see what the Eagles can do. Hold on. Before we get out, let's see what this
You
Marshall
gotta,
Lynch comment
yeah,
is.
you gotta answer for
What's a
that.
surprise free agent signing that would surprise you that Haley pulled off? Honestly, in the beginning of the show, I don't know if you were in here by then, but you and Scotty and I gave our kind of like top five in no particular order.
Yeah.
Free agent targets for the Eagles. Honestly, I can argue that any of them will be a surprise move. I think they're necessary moves, and I think they're great moves.
There's so many names
They
out there,
shouldn't be surprises, but with his track record and those positions and the money it's probably going to take to get some of the guys we're looking at, it
Yeah.
will be a surprise because it's something he's never done before. But
Yeah.
I think that's part of it, right? Like
Running
listen, the
back would
Eagles
be the
need
surprise,
change.
right?
That's what
Even
I'm
though
saying.
it's
Yeah,
been
if they go
rumored,
out, yeah, at
it's still a
12:05, if you get a
surprise.
Saquon Barkley Philadelphia Eagles tweet,
Yeah.
it's a surprise. Not that
Yeah.
it shouldn't be, but it will be, right?
Yeah.
If you get a Patrick Queen rumor, it's going to be a surprise. So
Yeah.
we'll see. And
L'Jarius
by the way,
Sneed, I would say, would be a surprise. You mentioned him earlier.
yeah,
That would be a surprise for me because I think we would have to trade for him as well. But I'm all for it. Don't get it twisted.
absolutely.
But it would surprise any of those three names you just mentioned would surprise me.
Thank God daylight savings is back. So tired of getting to the target 5:30. That's going to do it for this episode of the Phaithful Phanatics Show, guys. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We appreciate each and every one of you. We will be back maybe tomorrow, depending on what the Eagles end up doing today or any rumors that come out. If nothing big occurs, then we will be back Wednesday right here on the Philadelphia channel. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your Monday.
Peace, everybody. Go Birds.